Cashiers of Reddit, what's the most suspicious set of items a customer has purchased? I once bought 4 cans of whipped cream, chocolate sauce, sprinkles, and condoms. Funniest bit is that I didn't even think of how it looked. The first 3 items were for my daughter's birthday party, and the condoms were just oh yeah, we're out, afterthought. The cashier, male, checked me out, then winked and said, "Now you have a nice night." And I sort of stared at him for a moment until my brain fired up and made the connection. Then I laughed and said, "Oh, don't worry, I will." My husband still makes fun of me. This is only one item. It's the circumstances that make it suspicious. My brother was driving along behind someone who hit a deer. They stopped, and he also stopped. As is common in rural areas, he asked if they were going to eat it, and when they said no, offered to clear it up for them. He started butchering the deer, and after gutting a few other things, realized that he had nothing in his car to put the meat in. So he went to the nearest store to get something. He got the weirdest look from the cashier. It was only then that he realized he had walked into a gas station late at night, bloody to the elbows, and bought black plastic garbage bags. Worked at Barnes & Noble for a year. If there is something I learned from working there is old people are freaky AF. This 72-year-old woman is checking out with me, and she has a couple of books. A Bible, a home and garden book, a book on grieving, and a book about sex toys, different shapes, sizes, and how to use them. We're trained not to question or comment on what purchases are being made if the purchase includes sexual content. I apparently forgot my training and said, "Looks like someone's going to have a lot of fun tonight." Insert awkward stare and silence. She looks at me and says, "Praising Jesus is always fun, if you have the right friend." I giggled awkwardly and finished ringing her up. Turns out the sex toy book was for her granddaughter, and the Bible was for her and her congregation. Till this day, I still feel like Granny was going to a weird gangbang Bible study group. Once, when I was younger, 17 to 18-ish, I went to the store with some friends and bought several 1 to 2 liter sodas, a bottle of muriatic acid, and a roll of tinfoil. As we were leaving the store, a plainclothes security guy stopped us and said, "I've been to bomb school too, boys." At first I thought he said, "I've been to bong school," and I was trying to figure out what kind of bong we could be making and where one would sign up to go to bong school. Anyway, he took down our names. Looking back on it, I probably didn't have to give him my name, but I was young and obviously stupid, and told us if he heard about any bombs going off in the area, he would send the cops to our houses. We still blew up the bottles. I don't think they could have even properly be called bombs. And we never got in any trouble. I worked in a pharmacy here in the UK, and a customer brought in a very old chemistry set, so they get the relevant items and teach their kid. It wasn't long after the 7th of July terror attacks in London, and some of the ingredients looked familiar. I asked the pharmacist to double-check what was needed, and she asked the customer to go into the consultation room for a quick chat. Turns out some of the ingredients could be combined to make heavily corrosive chemicals, and in the worst instance, a very crude explosive device. We denied him the sale, and the guy never kicked up a fuss. Just laughed and asked that we throw away the box at our end. I worked as a cashier for a certain hardware store chain that has an affinity for the colors blue and red. My most memorable customer was a younger Hispanic guy. He approached me with a pair of tin snips and asked quietly if I thought that they would break through the typical locks used by storage units. The round silver ones. I told him that he'd need bolt cutters or an angle grinder would be his best bet. I helped him find a cheaper angle grinder and a variety of discs. I never asked what he was using them for, but he said his key broke off in his unit's lock. I still wonder sometimes if he used it to commit crimes or not. I don't think it's particularly suspicious what they bought, but how they got them. I was working at Sam's Club a few years ago. It's a warehouse store a lot like Costco. I go in, and very early on in the day, a man comes up with 9 flats of food. Over $2,000 to $3,000 worth of food. Ribs, steaks, lobster, potatoes, all of everything I could see. This dude was eating like a king. He then paid it off using only EBT food cards. Multiple cards. I don't know how he got them, but he used at least 6 of them. A single-ohm brand pot noodle, 37 euro cents, which he tried to pay for with a 50 euro note and an, "Oh, could you just change this massive wad of cash while your till's open?" "Yeah, right you are, pal." Closely followed by the 1 euro pregnancy test and a 30 euro bottle of vodka. Whichever way you look at it, that isn't ending well. As for all the lube/condom/cock ring/diarrhea pills, etc., we literally don't give a shit. We won't remember you unless you act weird about it. I only remember the guy who came in to buy a new skirt and tights once a week because he kept going on about how they were definitely for his sister who couldn't come to the shop herself. Mate, I literally don't care if you want to wear a skirt. It's 2019. People are doing a lot weirder. Not a cashier, but a customer. So I was in a store with a small pharmacy on the side, and I went in to buy condoms. I was going to my girlfriend's house, and I figured I might as well come prepared. I was going with a few friends, though, one of which was getting a ride to my girlfriend's house before, so he came into the store with me. He went to buy some chips while I went to find the pharmacy. I go in, choose a pack, and as I'm getting the receipt, my friend walks up behind me. I wasn't worried until the cashier looked back and forth between us a few times, and I realized he was seeing 2 guys buying condoms. I live in Tanzania. Homosexual intercourse is illegal here and frowned upon. I told the cashier they were for someone else, but to this day, I wondered what would have happened if that guy decided to get the attention of the cops sitting right outside the building. Last year, I was walking back to my dorm after studying and stopped by the nearby drugstore to get some body wash. While I was there, I realized I was out of lotion, and then walking through another aisle, they were having a pretty good sale of tissue boxes. So I'm walking to check out, and I run into a friend I haven't seen in a few months, and he asks what I'm doing as it's a Friday night. I say, not much, just on my way home, gonna just chill and relax on my own. He says, "Oh, that's cool," and does a quick glance at my basket, and we part ways. As I'm putting my items on the checkout, I realize all he saw was 6 boxes of tissues and a big bottle of lotion, cause everything else were covered by the boxes. I'm a cashier at a local hardware store. Sometimes people buy weird shit. Like the guy who bought 6 double packs of gallon jugs of Drano. Like, bro, call a plumber. Local businesses also have charge accounts to use. A funeral home guy recently came in and bought 3 hoses, sprayers, and about 8 pairs of pliers. What the fuck is going on there? Or the lady from the local hair salon who bought out her stock of needle nose pliers, about 12, then ordered site to store another 10 pair, all charged to the salon account. That one was really confusing. I bought a chair, duct tape, zip ties, rope, a ski mask, a bunch of ammunition, and an over-the-counter sleeping aid. I was heading up tech for a church event out on a ranch in cooler weather. Needed the chair to sit at my soundboard, tape, zip ties, rope to hang lights in the pop-up tent, a ski mask to work outside in the blistering cold air where I was going, and a sleeping aid to help me sleep in my tent all weekend. And since I was on a ranch in the middle of nowhere, I was told to carry my piece in case encountered snakes or coyotes. All completely normal items for the weekend I had planned. But to anybody else, would look like I was about to kidnap and murder somebody. Kinda the opposite for me. Working around concrete sucks the life right out of your hands, to the point of cracking and bleeding like a paper cut. Especially in the winter when it's already so dry out in the north. As a result, I carry around a thing of lotion with me, and I found it's easier to carry the small travel-sized tube with me. Every now and then I go to buy one of the large bottles so I can refill it, and I'm very conscious of what I'm buying at the same time. Toilet paper? Nope. Kleenex? Nope. Duct tape, pet treats, plastic sheeting? Acceptable. Obligatory not a cashier story, but here goes. A few years back, one of my closest friends committed suicide. He was battling deep depression, was in college, so not many close friends were around to help. I and his other close friends were in different states and even countries, and you can't often keep in touch all the time, especially when he himself didn't want to hang much often. And eventually it got the better of him. The sad part was, after the fact, the police discovered some PDFs, etc. on painless methods of assisted suicide on his PC. Apparently, it's a common set of items. I won't go into details. That's used for it, and apparently he purchased all of them in one trip to Walmart on the day he killed himself. Now, I often wonder what if the store chains like Walmart had a way of educating cashiers to identify such items when bought together, or have the checkout system raise a flag if these items were purchased together, and have the cashier quietly call someone responsible or the authorities, etc. Would that be so hard to implement? This was actually me. I just didn't realize how bad it looked until I was standing at the checkout, getting a bad look from the cashier. Recently divorced me started dating again and went to Walmart to get some condoms. At about 2 a.m., since I was working nights at the time. While I was there, I thought to myself, I really let myself go while I was married. I should start working out again. So I decided to get my punching bag out of storage, but realized I would need rope to hang it and duct tape to wrap it, since it was kinda old and raggedy. So there I was in the checkout line at about 2:30 a.m. with some rope, a roll of duct tape, and a box of condoms. I went to Lowe's to buy some concrete for a shitty art project at home. On my way to try and find some, I see bundles of rope and stop to look at it out of curiosity for another art project, macrame. A worker sees me and asks if I need help. I tell him I'm looking for concrete and he leads me the way. I didn't realize I took a bundle of rope with me since I was trying to figure out why he was acting weird. Then he says, "So, what do you need the concrete for?" I tell him and he deadass says, "Oh, I thought you were going to kill someone. You have the rope for it." I worked at a supermarket in a super sketchy area, and I'm doing my thing, scanning items. I was only 16 at the time, by the way. So I see this guy come in, and this guy, who looks like he's supposed to be in an insane asylum, walks in. So this guy gets his stuff. I'm just hoping that he doesn't come to my register. And guess what? He comes to my register. And I'm freaking out inside, or freaking in. He puts a knife, a paper towel roll, and a roll of duct tape on the conveyor belt. I just check out his things, sweating my butt off. I quit that same week because it wasn't worth minimum wage anymore. I work at a Walmart supercenter, and I'm usually stationed at self-check because I'm one of the few with proper training. A little background: at self-checkout, we have to approve certain items that customers scan, like alcohol, ammo, medicine, etc. And to do that, we have to go to the register the customer is at and manually approve it from there. One day, this guy walks into self-check, scans his first item, and the light comes on for me to go approve it. This guy's face turns beet red, and he runs out of self-check and back into the store. Didn't even take his items. When I went over to cancel the transaction, I saw he was trying to buy a box of condoms. And a cucumber. Not gonna lie, I was laughing my ass off until my break. I work in a small shop. A woman with a smudge of red on her forehead and very buff came in and bought 3 rolls of duct tape and 2 rolls of our heavy-duty bin bags. From the vein popping from her forehead, I didn't want to ask what it was all for, but I summoned up the courage, and she said, "I like to paint." Then I realized I was being ridiculous. That was just red paint on her head. At the time, I was relieved and confused. Since then, I've learned not to judge on appearances. I bumped into her on the street and she noticed me and said she has the perfect guy for me, her cousin. I'm a straight dude. But I guess all that came full circle in the end, and that week turned into one of the funniest weeks I've ever had. We weren't doing anything illegal, but we still acted all shady. We were going hiking and camping for a long weekend along the westmost coast of BC. On the way there, we stopped at a grocery store as my buddy needed contact lens solution. On this big $9 bottle is a coupon for a free bottle. No purchase required. We assume it was a fuck-up by the people at Big Lens Cleaner. We go back in, get another bottle, and go to a different teller, pay with coupon. Repeat. By the time we had gone through all the tellers once, we decided that enough was enough and left with 9 bottles of lens cleaner for the price of 1. Store gets reimbursed via the coupons. Never saw that deal again. First, for background, this was through one of those order your stuff online and come pick it up services my store offered. My store is also a grocery store, and 90% of what it has is food or food-related, with one small section of medicine and shampoo and such. An order comes through for about $500 worth of household supplies. It's all stuff like toasters, coffee pots, cutlery, etc. Now, at first you might think, oh, they must have been furnishing a kitchen. But remember, this is a grocery store, and most of our household supplies are low quality, make do until you can buy something better kind of things. And they ordered like 5 toasters, not one. When they arrived, 3 20-something men, we asked to see their ID and credit card to verify the purchase, which we do anyway on purchases over a certain dollar amount, and they didn't have the card with them. So we said we would hold on to their order for up to 72 hours, and when they returned with the ID and card, we would verify the information and give them their order. They never came back. And we forwarded their contact info, you have to enter some information when you order, to the police. They ended up getting busted for having stolen credit cards. Not me, but my mother. She worked at a Walgreens for some time a long time ago, and there was this guy who came in quite often, but he didn't raise any flags. Well, flash forward, and the guy murders his wife by decapitating her and throwing her in the ocean, and then he murders his children by stuffing them in an oil barrel. When he was on the run from the police, my mom didn't know what he had did, and he bought blonde hair dye from her, along with a few more questionable items that I can't remember, to change his appearance. Mine as a customer. 9 p.m., we'd hit a dough. We took it home to clean because why waste? Come 9:30, we're covered in blood and realize we've no way to package the meat to freeze. Hey, Dolgan is open till 11 p.m., problem solved. I go inside while my partner is still butchering, wash up, and head to the store. With various baggies and some trash bags, as well as a gallon of bleach, I get to the register. As I'm being rung through, the man behind me in line says, "Hey, mate, you okay? Your arm's bleeding." I look at my arm, then to him. Oh, it's not mine. I'd missed a spot. Cue both guy and cashier looking at my purchase. P.S. Just say you're butchering. Don't say the blood isn't yours. You will be detained. I once checked out a mom with her son who was around 7. She had loaded all of her groceries onto the belt, and her kid tried to sneak on some mouse traps. When I got to them, I asked the mom if she wanted them. She just looked at the kid and said, "I already told you we're not getting mouse traps. We have no need for them." And the kid responds with, "But I wanted to play with them." I had seen the kid trying to get his parents to buy them for him a few times after that. I was kind of worried about the kid, TBH. Now mind, this is a month ago. I have 6 to 8 hour shifts after school and I am tired and see a lot of shit. Most of it at this point just flies right over my head because CBA. But one day, this dude comes and buys a Snickers bar, a chain/bolt cutter, and a solid 150 zip ties. My first thought is he's going to kidnap someone and torture him. The area I work in is known for violence and gang violence in general. On another note, I chose to opt out of selling drugs and shit because of my young age. But it breaks me because this one guy, about the same age as me, 16 to 17, comes in every day and just buys the smallest Tic Tac box he can and pays with a 1,000 bill, about 200 USD, to get it given back in smaller change. Anyhow, plenty more has happened, but it's a terrible job. Obligatory, not a cashier, not my purchase, etc. My 6-year-old cousin was murdered in 2002. Her killer was intending to kill her father, not her. Once they arrested him, they were able to pull store surveillance and a receipt. The sick fuck had stopped at a store and bought a butcher knife, Coleman fuel, and lighters on his way to commit the crime. That's always haunted me a bit. I was at a hardware store and I bought a hatchet because I needed to trim some limbs on a tree which overhung my roof. On my way to the checkout, I remembered that I needed some heavyweight twine and duct tape to tie up some boxes that I had been meaning to put in the attic. It wasn't until I laid them all out on the counter that I realized how it looked. Once I went to the convenience store to buy multiple stuff, but the first 3 items I give the cashier are a small notebook, a pen, and some razors, which I don't even remember what they were for. I also wore all black. The guy freaked out and asked me if everything was okay. I later realized he thought I was about to kill myself. I know it shouldn't be funny, but I laughed. I worked at Walmart as a trainee for 2 months, and I remember some guy trying to get a pillow set with little frills on the side, not packaged, and it didn't have a price tag, so someone told me to go find the item with a price tag so they can ring it up. I didn't find it, but I found a single pillow that was a different color from his. Then it hit me that he just grabbed a bunch of them and tied them together. One time I was in line behind two very clean-cut guys. Slim, well-dressed, short hair and mustaches. One was buying a box of latex gloves, and the other two had cans of Ready Whip. In the same line, there were a pair of obese young women, one with a large cake, the other with a box of ice cream and a copy of TV Guide. Apparently, it was story night at Albertsons. I'm not a cashier, but I saw some guy buying 15 gallons of bleach and a mop and plastic wrapping and stuff like that. Mostly the ordinary stuff you see a serial killer buying, and the guy looked like he hadn't slept in days. What I suspect is he did the thing from Dexter where he wraps his victims in plastic wrapping and stabs them, then cleans up the mess. Had a man once purchase duct tape, zip ties, various assortment, and trash bags. I laughed and said, "Good luck with the kidnapping," as he left. 3 hours later, he was back with a toddler. He came through my line again and I raised a brow at him, motioning wordlessly to the boy before scanning. Guy looked confused a minute, then started laughing and said, "As you can tell, it was a success." Not a cashier, but one time my wife and I were at the grocery store relatively late at night. Oddly enough, my brother-in-law gets in line right behind us. He had just gotten off of work and had 3 items in his cart: box of wine, tissues, and lotion. He was a single guy in his late 30s at the time. We asked him if he had big plans for the evening. He said some excuse, but we both knew what was going down that evening.